जय शिशि गुरु गौरंग गंधर्व गिरिधारी शिशि राधा विनोद बिहारी जू की जय। श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन जू की जय। नित्यानंद प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शुतर शत शिशिमार भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्री गुरुदेव की जय। नित्यानंद प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शुतर शत शिशिमार भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्यालभविष्टुम विष्णुपाद शतर शत शिशुमार भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्यालभविष्टुम विष्णुपाद शतर शत शिशुमार भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्यालभविष्टुम विष्णुपाद शतर शत शिशुमार भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्यालभविष्ट महाभगवत शिल गोक्षर बाबूजी महाराज की जय। नित्याल भविष्य शिव सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। नित्याल भविष्य वैष्णव सार्वभौम शिव जगन्नाथ दास बाबूजी महाराज की जय। श्री रूपानु गौरी गुरु वर्ग की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ शारद गोसाई प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गौर पार्षद वृंद की जय। नाम जय श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल कोरमंडल ब्रजमंडल मथुर वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट विदात गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय। श्री मुन देवी कंग देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योग माया की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। जय श्री चैतन्य शिक्षाष्टक की जय। श्री सच्चिनंदन गौर हरि की जय। श्रील भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर भजन रहस्य की जय। श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। We'll do the Mangalacharan and then begin. अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। गुरुवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। श्रीसिद्धान्त सरस्वतीति विदितो गौरीयगुर्वन्वये भातो भानुरिव प्रभात गगने योगोरसङ्कीर्तनाय मायावारतिमिङ्गिलो दरगतान् उद्धृत्य जीवानिमान् कृष्णप्रेमसुधाब्धिगाहन सुखां प्रादात् प्रभुं तं भजे। वन्दे भक्तिविनोदं श्रीगौरशक्तिस्वरूपकं भक्तिशास्त्रज्ञसम्राजं राधारससुधानिधिं नमो भक्तिविनोदाय सच्चिदानन्दनामिने गौरशक्तिस्वरूपाय रूपानुगवराय ते श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। वृषभानुसुतान्वितवामतनुं यमुनातटनागरनन्दसुतं मुरलीकलगीतविनोदपरं भज गोद्रुमकाननकुञ्जविदुम्। Smara Gaura Gadadara Kelikalam Bhava Gaura Gadadara Pakshachara Shrinu Gaura Gadadara Charukatam Bhaja Godruma Kanana Kunjavidum Tavai Vasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Devi Tvang Nayamam Charanantikam Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshaya Kshiptashtakamal Dittaranga Madhye Kripa Mai Tvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Saruparaya Sangha Harsha Shesha Ghoshanam Shikshanashtakakya Krishna Kirtanaika Poshanam Prema Nama Matra Vishva Jivanaika Sambharam Prema Dhama Devameva Nomi Gora Sundaram Premurbhavita Dvega Mishritam Lapitam Gorachandrasya Bhagyavadbhir Prabhur Shikshashtak Shloka Jai Pore Shune Krishne Prema Bhakti Tar Bade Dine Dine. Whoever reads or hears the Lord's Shikshashtak verses, the Prem Bhakti for Krishna increases day by day. Okay, let's see who is here. Dandavat Pranams, Nri Hari Prabhu, Bhavatarani Mataji, Nitai Mukeshji, Anadi Krishna Prabhu, Ganga Mataji, and Rohini Nandan Prabhu. And I see there are 10 people today on YouTube and Facebook, but I only see the names of 2 people because only 2 people wrote comments. So I don't know who all of you are, but Dandavat Pranams, whoever you are. Uh, And if you don't mind, I like when I like knowing who's joining. So if you write a comment, I'd really appreciate that. Also, pranams to all the devotees watching. Haribol Shubhananda Prabhu. Dandavat pranams. And pranams to all the devotees watching in the future, like Shachi Devi and uh, Jayadev Prabhu and Revati Didi. Haribol Janardan Prabhu. Haribol. All right. So we are continuing our program going through. Well, we were going through the verses of Shikshashtakam, but then I decided to go through the first chapter of Bhajana-rahasya also, because all the chapters of Bhajana-rahasya relate to the 8 verses. There's 6. We saw the structure chart, right? Bhajana-rahasya is divided into eight parts, corresponding to the 8 periods of the day, the Ashtakalya Lila, the pastimes, the eternal pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And it also corresponds to the 8 verses of Shikshashtakam, the different levels of sadhan bhakti up to bhav bhakti up to prem, and it also corresponds to the pairs of Mahamantra. It also corresponds to the first verse of Shikshashtakam that also has all the so I decided just to go through the first chapter. I think we're going to go through the entire Bhajana-rahasya, but this isn't like an official reading of the Bhajana-rahasya. We're just kind of getting an overview. But at some point, I would like to properly read Bhajana-rahasya. Dandavat pranams, Mahibharat Prabhu, Haribol. All right, so first, before we begin, let's recite the verses of Shikshashtakam. And then, where is it? One second, let me open it up. Okay. Aceto darpanamarjanam bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam Shreya kairava chandrika vitaranam Vedavadu jivanam Anandam buddhivardhanam pratipadam Purnamrita swadanam sarvatma snapanam param vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrarpita Niyamita Smaranena Kala Etadrishi Tava Kripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaiva Me Drishamiha Janinanuraga Trinarapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Na dhanam na janam na sundarim Kavitam va jagarisha kamaye Mama janmani janmanishvare Bhavatar bhaktir ahaituki tvayi Ainandatano jakinkaram Patitamam vishame bhavam buddho Kripaya tava para pankaja Stitaduli sadrisham vichintaya Nayanam galarashudharaya Badanam gad gadarudaya gira Pulakarnichitang vapukada Tava nama grahane bhavishyati Yugaitam nimeshena Chakshusha pravrishaitam Shunyaitam jagat sarvam Govinda virahena me Ashlishavapararatang pinashtumam Adarshanan marmahatam kurotuvam Yata tathava vidadhatu lampato Mat prananatastu sa eva na para Mat prananatastu sa eva na para. Oh, and Haribol, Gaur Gopal Prabhu, and Gargaraj Ji, Dandavat Pranam, and Champak Mataji. Yeah, Champak Mataji, Haribol. Okay, so we are. Yesterday we got very close to the end of um, Bhajana-rahasya. Actually, forgot what did we make it to the very last verse or right before that? I'm just looking at yesterday's video really quick on my phone. Okay, I think we read up to Hare Nama Hare Nama Hare Nama Kevalam. That's what I just saw here. So okay. Um so something I just did right before we started. I'm not sure how some of you well, how yeah, some of you might feel about this, but I I used Gemini, that's Google's LLM. Um it's like Google's version of ChatGPT. And I, g- uh, I'm just explaining to you in case you find this interesting and you might like to try the other you might like to try this. But so I put the first chapter of Bhajana-rahasya into Google Docs, and then I went into Gemini. I used the Pro 2.5 version because there's a bunch of different versions, but I used the Pro one, and that one takes a bit longer, but it's a lot more. It thinks a lot more with that one. And so then yeah, I'll just show you what I did. Um, Basically, I got a summary though, just so you know. Okay. Um, so I went, Okay, so first I uploaded to Google Docs the first chapter of Bhajana-rahasya, and then I wrote this. I said, I made this summary of the first chapter of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Bhajana-rahasya, see Google Doc, of the Sanskrit texts and Bengali verses related to the Sanskrit texts here. And then I just pasted in what we did yesterday. And because we didn't finish doing it yesterday, so I just finished that up. So I added a bit more. And then I told it, please create, oh, I wrote it very quickly, just like everything that I wanted it to do. And then I went and I actually, uh, I put all my instructions into ChatGPT and I said, make this an even more clear prompt. And so um, lots of times I prompt it to make a better prompt. And then I'll adjust that prompt even more. Um, and so I said, please create a detailed and accurate summary of the verses in this chapter of Bhajana-rahasya with special attention to faithfully conveying the meaning of the original Sanskrit and Bengali. This summary should clarify the core message and flow of the entire chapter, offering a clear bird's eye view, have references to the original text numbers. It should show how each verse contributes to the overall structure and progression of the chapter. It should indicate where Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and his Bengali explanations expands upon or goes beyond the meaning explicitly found in the Sanskrit. It should be written with the understanding that the audience is an educated group of Gaudiya Vaishnavas participating in a reading group. So the tone, the tone should be respectful, insightful, and precise. That I don't think is necessary. Anyways, whatever. The goal is to help readers grasp the chapter as a unified whole so that they can later summarize it themselves with clarity and confidence. So as I said, I just wrote a like the general instructions, and then it expanded, it made it a better prompt. And so this is what it gave me. I haven't actually read it yet because I did it right before we started. So yeah, so I didn't have a chance to look at this. I just put it on a Word document, and I thought we could look at this, but then also look at the original. And then I also asked it to make it into a mind map. So it made it into this mind map, which is pretty neat. So this is just to get like a very, like you can see the structure of the chapter better. And then there are two places in this first chapter where Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur expands a lot. He gives like an overview of the whole Bhajana-rahasya on text 6 and also text 10. So I had it translate those verses, but I'm not sure if we're going to look at that. But one thing to always note is that it's very easy to um no, first of all, we should never fully trust anything that it gives us. Because lots of times it'll just make stuff up. So you should, yeah, never have like full confidence in anything it says. You always have to look at the original. So that's like, especially with translations, you very carefully have to look at the original, make sure it's an accurate translation. And I mean, I have so many thoughts on this. We discussed it one day, and I wrote something a couple days ago on this topic about the right way what I think is the right way to use these tools. And it should never just be like a quick fix so that we don't have to use our brain and then we just move on. But it's meant to be, yeah, if we just let it replace our brain, we're just going to become dumber and dumber and dumber. And um, with learning, uh, the more effort we put into thinking and the more struggle we have with our brain, like the more we actually learn. Any kind of passive anything is usually not so fruitful. It's like when we put in the effort and we're like really absorbed and we're challenging ourselves, and that's usually when you actually manage to retain something. It's like with exercise also. if you put in the efforts, and you're like, then you start to build muscles and get strong and like that. There isn't any kind of like passive kind of exercise. You have to actually put in the work, you know, and it's like that with learning as well. And so, um, but at the same time, it can be a very helpful tool. And so the key thing is not overusing it and just relying on it too much. Maybe I did that a little bit with this summarizing the chapter. And also one thing I should mention, I mentioned this yesterday, but I just want to mention it again. Um, this Bhajana-rahasya is not it's not a book that's like you're meant to study it and figure it out and memorize everything and have the like kind of what I'm doing is probably like Bhajana-rahasya is meant for going deep into your bhajan and your practice, and um it's not it's not some analytical thing that you're supposed to it's not like just some tattva that you need to uh you know what I'm saying? Like and so probably what I'm doing right now is, yeah, it's not what Bhajana-rahasya is about. But um, for me at my level, I'm just I'm not that deep in my bhajan or anything like that, and I'm kind of just seeing this as uh like we're not actually officially reading Bhajana-rahasya now anyways, but I'm just seeing this as like prepping me for when I will one day read Bhajana-rahasya, then at least I will have some idea where I am, where we're moving, and just it won't be like I'm looking at everything for the first time, but I would like already have some kind of foundation. Um, I don't know. I don't know if what I'm doing is totally off, but um, anyways, you can. I'm always happy to hear your thoughts on all this. But yeah. So I thought we could look through this summary and but also compare it to the original. Wait 1 second. Let me just put the original on this side. Let me make this text bigger so you can see it nicely as well. 1 second. Okay, hopefully that's big enough for you to see. I'll do the same on this side. Okay. So the core message of this first yam of Bhajana-rahasya, the first Yāma Sādhana, is the unequivocal supremacy of Sri Krishna Nam Sankirtan as the Yuga Dharma for Kali Yuga, being the most efficacious means for deliverance and the attainment of Krishna Prem. This chapter flows from establishing the authority and identity of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the bestower of this dharma, that's in the first two verses, to enumerating the extraordinary glories and potency of the holy name. And that's all throughout the chapter, text 3 to 6, 10, 12, 16 to 18, 22 to 26. These are all going through the glory. So all throughout the chapter, it's been explaining the glories of the holy name. Also, detailing the developmental stages of bhakti that arise from chanting. So that's in text 7, and that was expanded by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And he gives an explanation. Yeah, oh wait, sorry. Text 6 was his, sorry, never mind, scratch that. Then, whatever, I'm skipping that. Then warning against detrimental association. That was text 8 to 9. And then elucidating the sevenfold benedictions of Sankirtan as described in the first verse of Śikṣāṣṭakam. So that was from text 11 was that Cheto Darpana Marjanam, and then all the way up to verse 24 was an explanation from of Cheto Darpana Marjanam from different scriptures. Then confirming the Vedantic basis of Nam Tattva, that was text 27 to 29. So that was 3 verses from the Rig Veda. Then providing Mahaprabhu's direct instructions on chanting. That was text 30, it gave Mahaprabhu's instructions from Madhya Kanda of Chaitanya Bhagavat. And then revealing the esoteric meaning of the Mahamantra. There's a group of verses from Gopal Guru Goswami who went deep into the meaning of the words of the Mahamantra. And finally, describing the specific lila for meditation during Nishanta Lila. And that's, yeah. So we'll read that, like we'll sing that song. We'll read the verse that from Govinda Lila Mrita and sing the song that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote on that verse, the Lila Kirtan, and that will be our program for today. And then we'll finish this chapter. So now it gave me a detailed summary in progression. So text 1 to 2, Pranam to Sri Gauranga Dev, the deliverer of Kali Yuga. And then text 3 to 6, the unsurpassed glories of Harinam. And then text 7 was the gradual development of bhakti from Shraddha to Prem. Text 8 to 9 is the imperative of rejecting asat sangha. Then text 10 was the power of namabhas. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's link to Śrī Śikṣāṣṭaka. There's a group of verses that he shows how this all corresponds. We'll look at Srila, because we didn't look at the Bengali verses that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote there. And this all comes before Chaito Darpana Marjanam. Right? Then Chaito Darpana Marjana. Illumination on the first verse of Śrī Śikṣāṣṭaka. And then it shows how, gives a summary of all the verses that relate to the different parts of that first verse. Then text 25 to 26, further glories from Sri Krishna Namashtak. It's a couple verses from Namashtak, right? And then Vedic evidences for Nam Tattva. So that was from the Rig Veda, gave 3 verses from the Rig Veda. Then 30 to 31 was Mahaprabhu's injunction and the efficacy of faithful chanting. So there's that section from Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Kanda and the verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which assures that those who continuously chant Harinam with firm faith quickly obtain the fruit of prem. And then 32 to 33 was practical instructions for japa, or chanting, when you're chanting on beats. And then text 34, so the esoteric meaning of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So it goes through Gopal Guru Swami's profound explanation of the Mahamantra, the meaning of Hari, Hara, Krishna, Rama. Then concluding affirmations of Krishna Nam's supremacy. So then, yeah, we got 3 more verses on the supremacy of Nam. And then finally, text 38 is meditation for Nishant Bhajan, Kunja Bhanga Lila. So that's just those are all the sections, but then it goes through and it breaks down these sections so that you can, for example, let's see here, text 11 to 24 is illuminations on the first verse of Śikṣāṣṭakam, and then it goes through each one of those verses. Oops. Actually, I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not sure. Should we read all this? Like, I just read the titles of this. Yeah, I have to look at time also. Okay. I'm just looking at the comments, seeing if anybody. Haribo Vidilala Sadidi. Okay, yeah, let's just do it. So first, texts 1 to 2, Pranam to Sri Gauranga Dev, the deliverer of Kali Yuga. This chapter commences with a pranam to Sri Gauranga Dev, identified by the verse Krishna Varnam Tuisa Krishnam, which is, in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, but Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur changed the last line to Bhujami Kali Pavanam. I worship that purifier of the age of Kali, deliverer of Kali. He is worshipped as Kali Pavana, the deliverer of Kali Yuga, through the yajna of Nam Sankirtan. He is described as having a fair complexion, constantly chanting Krishna, and accompanied by his associates, his servitors, confidential companions, and armed with the weapon of Harinam to destroy ignorance. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Bengali verse emphasizes that Shri Hari descended as Gaur Sundar and Navadip to distribute Krishna Prem through Nam Sankirtan, which is the eternal religion of the jivas. That's in this Bengali verse here. Kali jiva udarite paratattva hari Navadipa aila Gora rupa avishkari. That. Okay. Then text 2 from Śrī Śikṣāṣṭaka expresses the longing for the darshan of Shachinandan, who instructed his Gaudiya Vaishnava followers to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, counting a fixed number of rounds. So this is by Raghunath Das Goswami. Nijate Gaudiyan Jagati Parigriha Prabhur Iman. Then texts 3 to 6 is the unsurpassed glories of Harinam. So this section extols the unique potency of Harinam. One second, let me just... How do I make this thing disappear? There, okay. Okay, so this section extols the unique potency of Harinam. It's text 3 to 6. Text 3, Bhajana-rahasya, states that the results obtained by extensive worship of Hari in Satya Yuga can be achieved in Kali Yuga simply by chanting Govinda's names. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Bengali verse clarifies that results from meditation from Satya Yuga, from sacrifices in Treta Yuga, Archan and Dvapar Yuga, all of them are obtained. So all the results from those main dharmas for those different yugas is obtained in Kali Yuga by chanting even namabhas, even a semblance of the name. Interesting. It doesn't say namabhas in the Sanskrit. And does it say in the Bengali, Satya Yuga Shata Yagya Haryarchan, Kalite Govinda Name Se Phala Arjan? No. And so I guess that was what my Gurudev wrote in his translation of this Bengali. Like it was a Bhav Anuvad and he added some meaning to it. So he says, by chanting Namabhas. Okay. Then text 4, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur quotes Brihad Vishnu Purana, which declares that Shri Hari's name can nullify more sins than even the most sinful person can commit, making other atonements unnecessary. Then text 5 is the Vaishnav Chintamani, highlights that kirtan performed simply by vibrating the lips is superior to smaran, is superior to remembrance, which destroys sins with great effort. Then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Bengali verses expands on this, noting the difficulty of other practices in Kali Yuga and the ease of kirtan. He also mentions Nam Smaran, that chanting without moving the lips, and states that chanting and remembering are superior to Archan. So that was here. That's text 5. So tapasya dhyana yoga kashta sadhya hoy oshter spandana matre kirtana ashray oshter spandana bhave namer smaran kirtana sarva siddhi sanghatan archana peka namer smarana kirtan ati shishta boli shaste korilostapan. Okay, so that was a good explanation of this Bengali. Okay. Then text 6, Hari Bhakti Vilas, asserts that the holy name is eternally on the lips of one who has worshipped Vasudeva for hundreds of births. Here, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur introduces a significant Bengali elaboration, an 8-verse explanation of how the 16 names of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, divided into 8 pairs, corresponds to the 8 stages of bhakti, culminating in Prem Seva and Vraj, implicitly linking this to the Shikṣāṣṭak's progression. This is a key expansion by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, providing a framework for understanding the Mahamantra's unfolding spiritual effects. So we didn't actually look at those verses carefully. I have it right here. So let's see. Here's a Bengali translation. Because this is like a, oops. This was like a key part of just copying it here. Actually, I can just copy it here. Copy. All right, 1 second. I mean, we did look at this a couple times, but I didn't actually look carefully at the Bengali. And so I just, since this is such an essential part. Okay. Okay, so Hare Krishna Sholanam Ashtayuga Hoy. Ashtayuga, and this is text 6, remember. So Ashtayuga Arte Ashtashloka Prabhu Koi. The 16 names of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra form 8 pairs. Ashtayuga. For the meaning of these 8 pairs, the Lord speaks of 8 verses, the Śikṣāṣṭaka, the Ashtashlok. Adi Hare Krishna Arte Avidya Daman Shraddhar Sahita Krishna Nama Sankirtan. The meaning of the first Hare Krishna pair is the subduing of ignorance, Avidya Daman. This Krishna Nam Sankirtan is performed with Shraddha. This is Krishna Nam Sankirtan performed with Shraddha. Okay, so the first Hare Krishna is Avidya Daman, subdues ignorance, and it signifies, it's performed with Shraddha, with faith. Ar Hare Krishna Nam, Krishna Sarva Shakti, Sadhu Sange Namashaye Bhajana-rahasya. The next Hare Krishna, the next pair, names, the next Hare Krishna names signify Krishna, the possessor of all potencies, how he is Sarva Shakti. Through sadhu sangha, through association with saintly persons, and taking shelter of the name, Nam Ashraye, attachment and taste for bhajan, bhajan anurakti, develop. Sheto bhajana krame sarvanartanash, anartapagame name nishtar vikash. By that gradual process of bhajan, bhajan krame or bhajana kriya, all anarthas are destroyed. With the removal of anarthas, firm faith, nishta, in the name blossoms. Vikash. Tritiye vishuddha bhakta charitre rasaha, Krishna Krishna nami nishta kore aharaha. In the third stage, corresponding to the Krishna Krishna pair in the Mahamantra, along with emulating the character of a pure, in the third stage, along with emulating the character of a pure devotee, a Vishuddha Bhakta, one develops day and night, nishta, in the Krishna Krishna names. Interesting. That's it. Tritiya Vishuddha Bhakta Charitra Saha, Krishna Krishna Nami Nishta, Kore Ahara. So I guess here, and in the third pair of names, one starts becoming a pure devotee, along with enumerating the character of a pure devotee. One develops day and night nishta in Krishna's names. Okay. Then Chaturte Ahituki Bhakti Uddipan Ruchi Saha Hare Hare Nama Sankirtan. Then in the fourth stage, corresponding to the Hare Hare pair in the Mahamantra, there is an awakening, there's Uddipan of unmotivated devotional service. This involves performing Nam Sankirtan of Hare Hare with Ruchi. So now we come to the stage of Ruchi. And Udipan is like an excitant, right? It's Udipan. It makes it arise, these feelings. So that's Ruchi. Okay. Panchamete Shuddha Dasya Ruchira Sahita Hare Ram Sankirtan Smarana Vihita. In the fifth stage, corresponding to the Hare Rama pair in the Mahamantra, along with taste, along with Ruchi, pure servitude, Shuddha Dasya, arises. Sankirtan of Hare Ram and regulated remembrance are performed at this level. So I guess that's asakti, right? Okay. Then Shashte Bhavankure Hare Rameti Kirtan Sangsare Aruchi Krishne Ruchi Samarpan. And the sixth stage, corresponding to the next Hare Ram pair, with the sprouting of Bhav, one performs Kirtan of Hare Rama. Sorry, this is, wait, is this Asakti? Is Asakti the Bhav Ankur, the sprout of Bhav? I need to say, let's see. Then disrelish, aruchi, for worldly existence, and the full dedication of one's taste, one's ruchi, to Krishna occur in this section, in this sixth stage. Sangsare aruchi and Krishna ruchi. Saptame madhura sakti radha padashray vipralambe rama rama namer uday. In the seventh stage, corresponding to the first Rama Rama pair in the Mahamantra, attachment in the sweet conjugal mellow, Madhura Sakti, and taking shelter in Sri Radha's lotus feet, Radha Padashai, manifests. Okay, in the seventh stage, there's Asakti, there's for Madhur Ras, for the conjugal mellow, and there's Radha Padashai, there's taking shelter of Sri Radha's lotus feet. In the mood of separation, in Vipralamba, the Rama Rama names, the second pair of Rama Rama names, arise on the tongue. Ashtame vrajete ashta kala gopi bhav, Radha Krishna prema seva prayojana labh. In the eighth stage, corresponding to the final Hare Hare pair in the Mahamantra, in Vraj, the devotional mood of a gopi in the eighth stage, in Vraj, the devotional mood of a gopi throughout the 8 periods of the day is attained. So Ashtakala Gopi Bhav. Throughout the 8 periods of the day, one is in that mood of Gopi Bhav. The ultimate goal, the prayojan of loving service, of prem seva to Radha Krishna is achieved there at the last pair of Hare Hare. So it's brilliant how Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was able, in beautiful poetry, able to give such clear structure to the entire Bhajana-rahasya. Like in such a tasteful, poetic, beautiful way. But it's something so structured and it's just amazing, huh? All right. So in Vajra-rahasya, in this first chapter, it goes through the unsurpassed glories of Harinam, those what is it? Those few verses. And on the last verse, going through the glories of the Harinam, then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives an overview of Bhajana-rahasya. And then after that, he gives text 7, he gives the gradual development of bhakti from Shraddha to Prem. This pivotal text from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu outlines the classic sequence of a sadhak's devotional development from Adao Shraddha, initial faith, from Sukriti, then Tata Sadhusanga, association with saints, Ata Bhajana Kriya, devotional activity, Tato Nartana Vritti, Syat, clearance of obstructions, Tato Nishta, from faith, Ruchistata, that's taste, Ata Sakti, attachment, Tato Bhavas, pure transcendental sentiment, that's Bhav, and finally, Tata Prema Bhudanchati, the arising of pure love of Prem. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Bengali verses following the Sanskrit text further illuminate this path. He emphasizes that Shraddha arises from Bhakti Mul Sukriti. Let's just look at the Bengali here. What is it? It's text 7. So he says, Bhakti Mul Sukriti hoite Shraddhodhoy. So in this verse, Adao Shraddha Sadhusanga Bhajana Kriya, the first word is Adao, in the beginning, first. And what does that refer to? What is in the beginning? It's Sukriti. So actually, before the stage of Shraddha, we usually just say Shraddha, Sadhusanga, Bhajana, Kriya, but actually there's something before that, Shraddha. That's Sukriti. Bhakti Mul Sukriti. And then from that, Hoite means from that, Shraddhadoy, Shraddha arises. Then Sadhu Sangha then leads to Bhajana-rahasya, that's learning devotional practices, which is accompanied by Nam Mantra Diksha. As one performs bhajan, anarthas are destroyed, leading to nishta. With increased nishta in the name, more anarthas vanish, and ruchi and taste for the name develops. With ruchi yukta nam, with a name that is endowed with ruchi, as anarthas further diminish, asakti to the name arises. When namasakti fully matures, all anarthas are removed, and then bhav certainly appears. Crucially, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in these Bengali verses here, he adds a warning. He says, in this process, if one succumbs to asat sangha, to bad association, then desires for pratishta can arise, leading to kutinati, which causes a spiritual fall. He strongly advises to meticulously avoid asat sangha and continually chant Harinam in great bliss. This practical warning about asat sangha and its consequences is an important, I don't know what pastoral means, pastoral expansion by the Thakur. Okay, giving help and advice on personal matters rather than on matters of others. Okay, so this is an important expansion by. So, see, one thing in the Bhajana-rahasya edition, there's no translation of this, and so, yeah, I skipped over this, but this is actually really important. Then you see, okay, it's right here. He says, Ati savadhane bhai, asat sanga tyajo, nirantar paranande, harinama bhoja. Actually, no, the verse before also, iti madhe asat sange pratishta janmiya, kutinati dvare de nimne philaiya. Then ati savadhane bhai, asat sanga tyajo, nirantar paranande, harinama bhoja. And so now you can see why he's moving into this topic of asat sangha in the next couple verses, right? Verses 8 and 9 is the imperative of rejecting asat sangha. I'd really love it, like in the next edition of, I don't know, we have to see if this would be possible, but in the next edition of Bhajana-rahasya, we could give translations of these Bengali verses. That'd be really helpful, I think. Okay. So then the Katyayana, which we just read here, these two verses here in the Bengali. These verses 8 and 9, or texts 8 and 9, underscore the danger of unfavorable association. Text 8 from the Katyayana Samhita states a preference for being burned by fire or caged over the calamity of associating with those averse to Krishna consciousness. Then text 9 from the Vishnu-rahasya deems embracing a snake, a tiger, or alligator as better than associating with those whose hearts are filled with material desires and who worship various demigods. And then, yeah, okay, so then text 10, the power of Namabhas and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's link to Śrī Śikṣāṣṭaka. So this text, what is it, text 10? This text from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 2.1.103 reveals that even Namabhas, a slight appearance or reflection of the holy name, likened to the sun, arising in the heart, destroys the darkness of great sins. One should faithfully perform bhajan of Krishna, the Supreme Savior, without duplicity. Then, following this, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur provides a profound Bengali explanation on how the Śikṣāṣṭaka verses map out the progression of Krishna Lila and bhajan. He advises practicing the first verse of Śikṣāṣṭaka for some time, then becoming proficient in the second, and so on, maturing one's bhajan through the first 4 verses. With the 5th verse, One should choose one's Siddhadeha. One should choose, we'll have to see the Bengali for that. And then begin to cultivate Radha Padashray, taking shelter at Sri Radha's feet, progressing further. By chanting according to the 6th verse, anarthas are removed, and one attains eligibility for the Siddha Deha. He warns that conceiving of the Siddha Deha without this eligibility leads to contrary understanding, viparya buddhi, due to lack of spiritual strength. He urges careful adherence to this kram, to this sequence for achieving siddhi, for achieving perfection, observing the character of sadhus to gain pure intelligence. By performing bhajan progressively after attaining the Siddha Deha, one effortlessly achieves the bliss of Ashtakala Seva, service throughout the 8 periods of the day. He encourages contemplating Śikṣāṣṭaka, performing Smaran Kirtan, which will gradually awaken Ashtakala Seva, remove all anarthas, bestow the treasure of prem, and make the fourfold goals of religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation seem insignificant. This detailed mapping of Śikṣāṣṭaka to the sadhak's journey and the attainment and service in the Siddha Deha is a hallmark contribution of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, offering a practical guide for advanced practitioners. Okay, so in the first section of Bhajana-rahasya, it's verses 6 and 10, where Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur really outlines the entire Bhajana-rahasya. So let's look at the verses of 10. Let's look at these Bengali verses here. One second. Here. I think this is it. Is this it? No, that's not it. Is it? Sakala Anartha. Oh no, that is it. Okay, sorry. Here. Okay. Parama Pavana Krishna Tahara Charan Nishkapata Shraddha Saha Koroho Bhajan. Krishna is the supreme purifier. He's Param Pavan, and his lotus feet are the object of worship. Perform bhajan of him with sincere, undeceptive faith, with nishkapat shraddha. Jar naam Surya Bhas antare praveshi, dhvangsa kore mahapap andakara rashi. When even a slight appearance of his name, which is like the sun, which is nama Surya Bhas, when that enters the core of one's heart, it destroys the vast darkness of great sins. And just an abhas of the Nam Surya enters the core of one's heart, it destroys the vast darkness of great sins. E Śikṣāṣṭake kohe Krishna lila kram, ihate bhajana krame lilar udgam. This Śikṣāṣṭaka speaks of the progression, the kram of Krishna lila. Through the gradual process of bhajan, according to this, the Lord's pastimes arise. Pratame pratama shloka bhaju kichu din, dvitiya shlokete tabe hoto praveen. So first engage in bhajan according to the first 5. He says first engage in bhajan according to the first verse for some days. Pratame pratama shloka bhaju kichu din. For some days, just focus on the first verse. Then dvitiya shlokete tabe hoto praveen. Then become proficient in the second verse. Chari shloke kramasha bhajana pakva koro, panchama shlokete nija siddha deha varo. Through the first 4 verses, then gradually mature your bhajan. Then with the 5th verse, what is 5th verse? Is that Ayinanda Tunujikin Karam, I think, right? So with the 5th verse of Śikṣāṣṭaka, then choose your own perfected spiritual form, vara. Okay, let's see. Panchama shlokete nija siddha deha vara. Vara, I'm not sure if choose would be the right word for this. see, Varapawa means to obtain a boon. But vara as a verb, that was a verb. So let's see vara as a noun. We have to see it as a verb. Anyhow, I don't think that's correct, that part, like that translation. That's why you always have to check. So then Aishloka Siddhadehe Radha Padashray Aramba Koriya Krame Unnati Udoy. I mean, I guess in some sense there is choosing, but it says Nija Siddhadeha. But there is like anyways, I need to look into more deeply. So let's just I'm gonna look into this deeply and then I will be able to explain it better tomorrow. Because that So then Oishloke Siddhadehe Radha Padashray Aramba Koriya Krame Unnati Udoy. In accordance with that verse, Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram, in your Siddha Deha, begin to take shelter at Sri Radha's lotus feet, Radha Padashray. Having begun this, gradually spiritual advancement will arise. That's interesting, huh? Because in that verse, Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram, it's praying that I become a particle of dust at your lotus feet. And then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was saying that this means we take shelter of Sri Radha Padashray, take shelter of Radha's lotus feet. Usually I just think of the Lord, right? Oh Prabhu, may I become, but he specifically for those uh, in this particular line, following Rupa Manjari, Rupa Goswami, Rupa Nuga line, then it's wanting to attain the feet of Sri Radha. Having begun this, gradually spiritual advancement will arise. Then, Choy Shloka Bhajite Anartha Dure Gelo, Tabe Jano Siddhabdehe Adhikara Hoilo. By performing bhajan according to the 6th verse, anarthas, unwanted impediments, will go far away. So that's Nayanam Galarashudharaya, right? Then know that eligibility, that adhikar for one's siddhadeha has been achieved. So at that stage, nayanam galadashudharaya, then there's some eligibility for one's siddhadeha. Adhikar nalabhiya siddhadeha bhave viparyay buddhi janme shaktir abhave. Without attaining this eligibility, if one merely imagines the siddhadeha, then contrary or perverted intelligence arises due to a lack of spiritual potency. Savadhane kramadharo jadi siddhi chao, sadhur charitra deki shuddha buddhi pao. Carefully follow this sequential process if you desire perfection. By observing the character of saintly persons, obtain pure intelligence. Siddha deha pe krame bhajana korile, ashtakala seva sukha anayase mile. Having attained the Siddha Deha and performing bhajan progressively, the bliss of service during all 8 periods of the day is effortlessly attained. Śikṣāṣṭaka chinta koro smarana kirtan krame ashtakala seva habe udipan. This is a nice verse. Maybe we should add this to our Mangala Charan. Contemplate the Śikṣāṣṭaka. Perform remembrance and chanting, smaran and kirtan, and gradually service for all 8 periods of the day will be awakened. I like this verse. I'm going to save this. I'll add it to our daily recital at the beginning of our program. Shakala anartha jabe pabe prem dhan chatur varga falgu pray habe adarshan. Then all anarthas will depart and you will obtain the treasure of divine love. You'll obtain prem dhan. The 4 conventional goals of human life, the Chaturvarga, which is religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, will seem insignificant and disappear from sight. Jai. Okay, so that was text 10, which we hadn't actually gone through until now. So our time is up. Oh my God, we're already 8 minutes over, 5 minutes over time. Sorry about that. Well, actually, it's been 1 hour exactly just now, I see. So that's our program for today. Um, wow, that took a really long time, but I'm happy that we went slowly through these Bengali verses on text 6 and text 10. That was important. Um, so we will end our program here today, and then we will continue on tomorrow. I hope you didn't mind me using these AI tools so much, but we were looking at the source, and so I think that's the important thing, that you always have to look at the source and take everything you read with a grain of salt. All right, I'll just do a short Mahamantra, and we'll end for today. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. And just one thing with that, the thing about Voro, and like choosing, it said choose your Siddha Deha, which I think Vara can be translated in a different way. Um, so I do have to look into that more. I'm going to look into that in over the next few days. But one thing that I learned from Sundar Gopal, hopefully I'm not getting this wrong. I might get this a little bit wrong, but um, so remember I was mentioning that example the other day, that he told me about looking at an old building from different viewpoints, from different perspectives. So you could see it as a historian, you could see it as an architect, or you can see it as an engineer. And they are interested in different things. And so they don't look at they're not interested in what the architect doesn't really care about what the historian's interested. And the historian doesn't really care so much about what the engineer is interested in. um, they all have different things that they focus on. And so when we're looking at the self, you can see it from different perspectives, and you can't it's not monolithic. You can't bring it all together and say they're saying the same thing, because they're not saying the same thing. They're saying completely different things, and they're not related to each other even. And so when Srila Rupa Goswami, when he's talking about the self, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, or like not the self, like when he's talking about, um, yeah, I guess the self, then he's he doesn't care about the Atma, the soul, like what we hear about, which has all these different qualities, the eternal soul that moves from one body to the next body to the next body, which we hear in Vedanta and the Bhagavad Gita. It talks about the soul and all that. That's not the soul that Srila Bhaktivinoda Srila Rupa Goswami is just not interested. Like it's not really relevant, um, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So he doesn't even mention the soul in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. But when he's talking about he uses the mind and the heart. That's and so he says, and so when um and so even like that verse of putting the seed in the heart, it's the seed, it's not talking about planting the seed in our eternal soul and then we water, but it's like the seed in the heart and mind. um I might be getting this wrong, so this is just like, um but and so when he's talking about choosing, I'm no, see, okay, I'm not saying anything right now. This is the area that I'm going to explore and I'm going to look into, and I'm going to ask questions about this. So anyways, now you can just know like kind of what direction I'm moving in and how I'm thinking about it, and what I'll let you know what I find out. Um, yeah. All right. I'm gonna end here. Uh, Jai Shri Sachinandan Gaur Hari Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju Ki Jai Jai Shri Guru Dev Ki Jai Jai Shri Param Guru Dev Ki Jai Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai Swaparshad Shri Gaur Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Gan Ki Jai Shri Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya Ki Jai Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Jai Shri Nitai. Jai Shri Bhakti Vinod Thakur's Bhajana-rahasya ki jai. Shri Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Jai Shri Chaitanya Śikṣāṣṭaka ki jai. Shri Sachinandan Gaur Hari ki jai. Jai Shri Rupa Goswami Par ki jai. Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Vrindai Tulsi Devai. Priyai Keshavashacha. Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi. Sattvatai Namo Namaha. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha. Kripa Sindhu Bhyayevacha. Patitanam Pavanebhyo. Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat pranams. Haribo. And just like Srila Rupa Goswami in um, even in Upadeshamrita, also well, especially in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami is Krishna Smaram Janam Chasya Preshtam Nijas Samihitam. What is that? Like the process of Raganuga Bhajan. God, I shouldn't talk when I don't know my stuff, but whatever. I'm just gonna whatever. I'm gonna, yeah, always never take anything I say as definitive unless I'm really confident about it. Then I can like say with more. But with this, I'm not right. But Srila Rupa Goswami, he explains that we we follow in the footsteps of a Vrajvasi. And we see which Vrajvasi is in our mood, and then we follow in their footsteps. And we're doing all these things so that we can come into that mood of being like that, of that Vrajvasi who has that loves Krishna, who serves Krishna in the way that we want to serve Krishna. And so then we meditate on them, and then we practice, and we all these different favorable things so that we can come into that mood. And so in that way you are kind of choosing. And yeah. And so anyways, I'm gonna end here, but yeah. All right. Thanks for sticking to the end. Dandavat pranams. See you all tomorrow. Jai Shri Radhe. Is there anything anybody wants to mention before I end our program for today?